Hi, my name is Deepika, and this is my data storytelling project on climate change in Ireland for the module Storytelling through Data Visualization. In this presentation, I explore whether the awareness of climate change in Ireland translates into meaningful behavioral change. We consistently hear about climate change in Ireland through media, policy debates, and public campaigns. So, the first question is, are people actually aware? Looking at the data, we can see that majority of the respondents report moderate to high knowledge of climate change. Very few people say that they know nothing about it. So awareness, at least at the surface level, is relatively strong. Moving on. Awareness alone does not tell us everything. What about concern? When asked about local flooding risks, one of the most tangible climate change impacts in Ireland, most respondents report being worried. This tells us something important. Climate change is not just it's not just an abstract concept. It is personally concerning. So, if awareness is high, concern is widespread, we expect action to follow. While awareness and concerns are high, consumer activism remains limited. Around 85% of respondents report not rewarding companies for climate friendly behavior, and over 90% report not punishing companies for harmful practices. This shows that although people care about climate change, only a small minority, translate that concern into consistent consumer action. But when we examine civic action, such as willingness to join a climate change campaign, for instance, the picture completely changes. Only a minority of respondents report being willing to engage. Despite widespread concerns, activism levels remain relatively low or modest. This begins to suggest a gap between what people know and feel and what they are actually willing to do. We also see that higher climate change knowledge is associated with greater willingness to join a campaign. Support rises from about 9% among low knowledge respondents to roughly 22% with high knowledge. However, even in the most informed group, it can be noticed that participation is relatively low, suggesting that awareness alone does not guarantee action. Let us look more closely at consumer behavior. Here we examine whether people reward companies for responsible behavior or practices. We observe a clear upward trend. Individuals with higher climate change knowledge are significantly more likely to reward the companies. That is, if a group is the most knowledgeable group, it's 5 times more likely to take action than the least knowledgeable group. However, this is important that even in the most knowledgeable group, fewer than 30% report doing this. So, awareness increases the likelihood of action, but it does not produce widespread engagement. We see a very similar and concerning pattern even in terms of punitive behavior, which is punishing the companies for harmful climate change practices. Among awareness, I mean, again, awareness is associated with greater action, but overall participation remains limited. Even among those who report high knowledge of climate change, most people are not willing to consistently engage with consumer activism. This is a repeated pattern, and this further strengthens the conclusion that we will be arriving at. So, what does this tell us? In Ireland, the awareness of climate change is high. Concern about local impacts such as floods is widespread, and awareness does increase the likelihood of taking action, but action levels remain modest overall. This suggests that information and concern alone may not be sufficient to drive large scale behavioral change. Structural barriers such as cost convenience or social norms or perceived impact may prevent people from translating this concern into consistent action. The moral of the story here is if awareness is already high, simply telling people more about climate change may not be enough. To meaningfully change behavior, we may need stronger incentives, clearer pathways to action, and systems that make sustainable choices easier. Concern does not automatically equal action. Thank you.